My dad announced he was selling our childhood home at Sunday dinner and blamed each of us for destroying it, so we told him exactly which memories destroyed us. It was Sunday dinner at the house we grew up in, and Dad asked us all to sit in the living room instead of eating. He was holding a folder with the realtor's logo on it. He said, "I'm selling the house, and before anyone asks why, I'm going to explain exactly how each of you contributed to this decision." My older brother stood up and said, "Dad, can we talk about this privately?" Dad opened the folder and said, "Sit down, I've documented everything." He pulled out the first page and looked at my brother. "You moved out 6 years ago and visited exactly 11 times. I have the dates written down." My brother said, "I live 4 hours away." Dad talked over him. "Thanksgiving 2019, you stayed for 3 hours. Your son's birthday last month, you didn't even bring him inside. Mom went out to your car window to say hello." Dad turned to my younger sister. He flipped to a page covered in printed text messages. "You told your friends that growing up here felt like living in a museum where nothing was allowed to be touched." My sister's face went red. She said, "That was a private conversation." Dad smiled and said, "Was it though?" He started reading her texts out loud, word for word. Texts from 3 months ago about walking on eggshells every time she visited. Texts from last year about how she couldn't wait to stop pretending the house felt like home. My sister said, "How did you get those?" Dad kept reading. Then he said, "I also have the email chain from September, where you all discussed whether Mom and I needed to move into something smaller." He looked around the room, whether we were capable of maintaining this place. I looked at my phone and opened our family email thread. The forwarded message at the top was from my youngest sister's account. I looked across the room at her and she was staring at the wall with her jaw clenched. Dad turned to me. "You told your wife that Sunday dinners felt like an obligation." My wife grabbed my hand. "I never told my father that. I said it once, in our bedroom. After a long day." He pulled out another paper and read my exact words. "It feels like showing up to prove I still care, even though it doesn't change anything." I turned to look at my youngest sister, and she was crying silently. Dad folded his papers. "And my youngest daughter, you're the only one who still treats this house like it matters. You're the only one who understands what family actually means." My youngest sister covered her face with both hands. I stood up and said, "You want to know what destroyed this house? Let's go through the list." Dad said, "Sit down," but I kept talking. "My 14th birthday. You told me in front of all my friends that I'd never be as good at basketball as you were, and you spent the whole party showing everyone your trophies." Dad said, "I was trying to motivate you." My brother stood up and said, "He quit basketball 3 weeks later." My younger sister stood up. "My college acceptance letter. You read it at dinner and said Carnegie Mellon wasn't as impressive as it used to be." Dad said, "I wanted you to have options." My sister said, "I chose a different school because I didn't want you telling people I went somewhere you didn't respect." My brother said, "When I told you I was engaged, you pulled me aside and asked if I was sure she was the one. You thought I could do better." Dad said, "I was looking out for you." My brother put his arm around his wife. "She heard you. We almost called off the wedding." I said, "When I lost my job 2 years ago and asked if I could stay here for a month, you made me pay rent and left a chore list on the counter every morning like I was 16. Dad stood up. "I've given you everything. I kept this house perfect for you. I maintained every room exactly how it was so you'd always have a place to come home to." My youngest sister stood up slowly. Her hands were shaking. She looked right at him and said, "You want to know what destroyed this house? You did. The day you asked me to forward you everyone's private messages because you said you just wanted to understand us better." My brother said, "What?" My youngest sister's voice cracked. "He set up a forwarding rule on my email when I was in high school. Every family email copies to him automatically. He asked me to screenshot text messages and said it was because he felt left out. He said if I really loved him, I'd help him stay connected." She turned to Dad. "You want to sell the house? Sell it. Because the only thing I'll miss about this place is the version of it that never actually existed." My brother looked at Dad and said, "Put the money toward a nice facility. You're going to need friends when your kids stop calling."